I'm obliged to inform you that this meeting is being videoed. Members of the public are entitled to film the proceedings, provided they comply with Shropshire Council's terms and conditions, which are available today at the far end of the room. If you are filming for commercial purposes, you must have first gained permission, without which you may not proceed. Any member of the public who has any concerns should raise them now. I always feel that's a bit like a wedding ceremony, you know, everybody's got objections. And you're sitting there hoping no one has. You know. Okay, item 1, apologies for absence. I've got Gwilym Butler and Roger Evans, and Charlotte is taking his place. Yeah. Which can really good, Charlotte. Well. Any others? I don't think there are. Everyone else is here. Item 2, pecuniary interests. Item 3, minutes. Are we happy to approve the minutes of the meeting of the 18th as a true record? Yes?
No.
Yeah? Can't hear you, folks.
Yes.
Thank you. Public questions. We've had questions from Mr. Stephen Malloy, and the answers have been tabled. Stephen?
Yeah.
Do you mind calling you Stephen?
No, it's fine.
No. Do you have a supplementary?
Yeah, I can just...
Come take a chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've only just got the response just a few minutes ago, really, before the meeting started. But in question 1, I did ask whether the council would actually consider an approach where developers are incentivised to build to higher standards than Sustainability Code Level 3. And the response doesn't actually mention whether or not the council will consider that at all.
Okay.
And on the second question, he mentioned the consultation that took place in the summer, and references to the Join the Conversation events that took place. And I understand there's about 4 of those, but I was led to believe that there was only about 25 people turned up at certainly 2 of the events, and so I think that only engaged with about maybe 100 people. And I actually listened to the Eric and Claire show on the morning of the Shrewsbury event, and Eric, he was hosting the event that evening, and he didn't even mention it on his show. So I just sort of worried that we're not actually getting out there and engaging with people. We're doing press releases.
So can I just ask, which the first one you didn't mention, did you say? Because I know Eric was promoting it quite extensively on the radio.
All right. Well, I listened. Yeah, I don't listen to Radio Shropshire every day, but I was aware that the conversation was taking place at the Walker Theatre.
That was pretty well promoted by Eric on the show, actually, because
Yeah.
the first one, that's why I asked you, was at Oswald Street.
Yeah.
And there were a number of people who raised it that
Yeah.
it wasn't communicated, even though they did do the radio,
Yeah.
they did do the press, they did all the things we normally do. So Eric went away from that and did actively promote all the others quite extensively, to be truthful.
Yeah. Well, I read about it on the council website,
Yeah.
and I wasn't sure whether it was a ticketed event. And I contacted the communications department like that, and nobody actually got back to me. So I rang up the Theatre 7, and Theatre 7 didn't know anything about it. And
That's a bit disturbing when
yeah,
the room is
exactly.
booked at
And
the Theatre
eventually somebody identified that it was actually scheduled as a budgeting meeting. And so, you know, I contacted them and they didn't know, and I could have just gone away and left it at that.
Yeah.
But
The other way we promoted it, because it was a point, I think you're making a valid point, because I think it was raised with me at the first meeting, and I was concerned that with the numbers of people that turned up, and you always want more. But we did promote it widely through media like Facebook and Twitter particularly, where we have thousands of followers in the different departments. But I've been doing these things for 4 years. I've done all 28 LJCs, I've done budgetary things for years, and unfortunately, no matter how much we try, it's very, very difficult to get the public to turn out and engage.
I accept that, Mr. Chairman, but perhaps that's something that we've got to work on and look at improving that.
Well, which we do.
You kindly offered to meet up with me
Happy.
sometime in the future, and perhaps we could discuss a few ideas then.
Yeah, that'd be great. Mal, do you want to come back?
Steve,
Oh, sorry, any other points, Steve?
anything else you want to put?
No, well, I did have like a supplementary question really, but because the DCLG are currently conducting a housing standards review at the minute, and the latest changes to Part L of the building regulations, they raised the national minimum requirements for all new homes to be between code levels 3 and 4. Any action at the point of build can lock in efficient design and reducing energy and heat demands and future retrofit costs. And this makes homes cheaper to run and result in significant fuel bill savings each year for future homeowners. And so this takes me back to my original question, are the council going to actually look at ways they can encourage and incentivise new homes to be built to a higher level than code level 3?
Okay, Matt, do you want to come back on that one?
No, firstly, just to say thank you, Stephen, for the questions, because for me they are very constructive questions in the areas that obviously have a lot of dealings with. First thing I want to start with is I'll start with question 1, which is about the new homes bonus and the efficiency one. I think you make a valid point. I think the first thing we've got to point out that the new homes bonus, because that's what it's relating to, although it was created and it was all sounded worldly good that every time we got a new house built we'd get the community charge for 6 years, equivalent for ourselves, plus £350 extra if it was an affordable, which I'm sure you're well briefed on, is a great incentive to more development. That's what it's about, making more developments because we need more and more houses. The sad fact of it is, new homes bonus was not new money, it was old money, and it used to be development support grant, and I'm sure James probably more au fait of telling us where it went and how it's changed, but the fact of it was, some of it was new, some of it was old. So from my point of view, it was how do we make best use of new homes bonus to make it work. And I don't mind sitting here and saying that in the early 2011 Leader, we didn't use the new homes bonus. We did, but a lot of authorities did. We used it for other things. In our case, it was now reserves. But as a result of those actions, not just by us, but particularly other authorities have never used it since. The government are reviewing it, as Stephen will know, and sadly, much to my amazement, they're going to top slice 35% of that money away from us, and they're going to put it through the LEP. So we'll be able to bid for our own money through the LEP. Fantastic. And why I'm very disappointed about that is because we are the local authority locally that have kept the development going, have had the biggest receipt and had the most new homes bonus. And I'll find myself competing with my neighbours or our neighbours for money that we've earned.
Yeah.
I hope that as councils we can have a grown-up conversation and say, you've earned that much, that's yours, and we've earned this much and this is ours. I don't know, but I'm certainly going to have a go at that. So the money's not new, and I just have to make that point for starters. If you look at the efficiency ones, and you're preaching to convert to Stephen. I've just done a self-build myself, which has got all the add-ons that you can think of, and hopefully will make my son's running cost as low as it can be. And every development should be like that, right across the board. No two ways about that. The sad thing is, and I've said this before, that I think the developers are much better at lobbying government and getting in the way than we are. And we've tried locally already to say to developers, we want you to build to a higher standard, and they said, well, hang on there, viability, we can't do this. You're asking for all these add-ons we can't do. Now, Code 3 sounds as if it's a low code. It's not a low code, it's a very good standard, as is BRIM, but you're correct in saying Code 4 is more appropriate, and some have done even Code 5. And we've done those through the new homes bonus, where, without jumping too much through to the other questions, where we talk about funding. One of the ways that we've done the funding, against you, I know you've seen it, is where we've offered up, where local community involvement is what it says. So we're saying to the developers or the reg providers, if you're going to develop in a community, we want you to do the consultation locally and make sure that it comes forward with total community support. Where we've done that, and I know Stephen's seen this, we've given 10,000 for each plot that they build, which means they get a very high standard above the Code 3, which is good. Secondly, we've also put £3,000 to that local parish council for the consultation support that they've done. So for me, that's true consultation. That's with the consultation at ground level. It's also getting the results that Stephen, that you and I both want. But there's a risk to that for the main developers. And I'm pleased that you mentioned, because I was going to, because because I'm sure a lot of people have passed this by. There's a housing standards review going on as we speak with the government starting in September. It's just closed. And I think it's, if I can, Lee, just bear with me, because I do think it's worth just quoting from what's in the impact assessment of that review. And it says the problem under consideration is a large number of local and national housing standards which each local authority can require from house builders through the planning system. Housing standards are complex and often overlap and contradict each other or contradict parts of the building regulations themselves. Housing standards take cumulative to increase the development cost of house builders, and that's the argument we get, and can be seen to obstruct growth as an additional cost and can make some developments economically unviable. The various local standards are designed to tackle a range of different failures in the construction of new homes. However, a lack of coordination across the standards and the way they're introduced, modified, enforced undermines the effectiveness of the efforts to correct such market. That's what's going on at the moment. I know Stephen's up to fame that. My real concern is that I hope I'm wrong, but I think they'll level down, not level up. We'll wait and see. And I think we'd be foolish to do anything until that's took its course. But you know, can we do something more locally? We keep promoting as much as we can, Stephen, but the bottom line is I don't have the money to put into every development to make it work. We're doing it with the affordables where we can. Just come on to the budget spending, although we've had a lot of money in for new homes bonus, over 4 million. I have actually had £1 million each year for the last 2 years, and hopefully that will continue. Last year's money, the figures don't show that you've got that much was spent. I can tell you the whole £1 million for last year is committed, although clearly that building takes a long time. And my £1 million for this year is also nearly all spoken for. So it is coming through, but it takes time. And I look to reaping the rewards in the future. So if I can say, Stephen, I appreciate the questions. I think we are on the same page, or maybe coming from a slightly different approach. And you know, if we can get the standards up, I'm all for it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Just a footnote, I was thinking while you were speaking about consultation, if you've got any good ideas, I'm always willing to listen. But UKIP, who do lots of public meetings, reckon you have to put 1,000 leaflets out to get one bum on the seat. And that's a real challenge for all of us, is how to get the public to engage with us. Because a lot of the meetings you're talking about, if you take councillors, parish councillors and people involved in organisations out and see how many pure public members are there, it's quite depressing.
Can I come back?
Yeah, go for it.
Well, I've been to about 12 of these LJCs for the last 2 months, and the attendance has varied from 60 at one, where there was a controversial issue raised, and at others, I've been the only member of the public sat there.
Yeah.
But what I did notice that everyone there's requests for grant funding from different groups, and surely the sort of approach you could do is that if somebody wants to come to you for £3,000 funding, you say, right, that's fine, but let's have sort of 30 or 40 of your group turn up to the meeting and listen about other things we talk about.
Yeah.
Or perhaps they agree to have some community citizenship training within their group at a following stage with a member of a community action group attending their meeting, something like that, you see. So a bit of a carrot and a stick really there. That's one example.
I think it's true, but it's, you know, forcing people to engage is an interesting point.
Yeah.
But it is very, very difficult. You're absolutely correct. The only time you get a good turnout is if there's something really controversial. I mean, I've done all 28 local joint committees at least once, most 2 or 3 times, and other public meetings. High Lee, we had a room full of people around, because planning, you talk about planning, controversial planning, you fill a room. So it is the controversial issues that get people stirred up. The other side of the coin might be that people are relatively content. But you never know. Listen, thank you for coming, and you set that meeting up. We'll look forward to it.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Okay, maximum scrutiny, none. Reports from scrutiny, none. Item 7, revenue monitoring report. Mike.
Leader, the period 7 revenue monitoring report is showing a net overspend of 2.6 million. Although this has reduced by 900k since period 5. The improvement in the outturn position reflects savings being reported within supporting people of 400k, voluntary redundancies of 400k being projected within resources and support, and savings of 160k relating to Shropshire Link. There has been no reported change in the adult social care monitoring position for period 6, and a working group has been established to understand the cost pressures within the service to identify savings to offset the pressure. The next monitoring report to Cabinet on the projected outturn will be based on period 9, which will enable a full update on the outcomes from this working group to be reflected. In the meantime, I will continue to monitor this work closely. I move the recommendations in report 2.
Okay, thank you very much, Michael. No one speaking, all in favour? Happy? Thank you. Capital monitoring.
The period 7 capital monitoring reports year-to-date expenditure of 18 million, which represents 30% of the reprofile budget after 6 months of the year has passed. Capital receipts of 4.7 million have been generated in the first 6 months of 2013-14, and it is anticipated that the level of capital receipts projected in the year will be sufficient to fund the capital programme, and therefore no borrowing will be required. However, the Council will continue with its programme of disposals, as any additional capital receipts achieved in the year can be set aside to deliver one-off revenue savings for 2014-15. I move the recommendations A, B and C.
Thank you. Just while I've got the opportunity on capital assets, Alan, John Tandy seems to be trying to stir up some sort of fuss and palaver around us selling the golf course. And he said to the press that 2 people have made us offers. Well, let me be absolutely clear, there have been no offers made on the golf course at all. But if one came along, it's something we'd have to look at and consider. But it's a complete non-story, there's no truth in it, and I don't know where it's come from, to be quite honest. Okay, are we all happy? Thank you. Item 9, financial strategy. Mike, you're going to open.
Yep. The business plan and financial strategy is a new type of report for consideration by Cabinet. The front half of the document provides details on the work being done across the Council and the manner by which we are looking to redesign everything that we do. The second half of the report provides details on the Council's updated financial position and together identify the key steps in meeting the Council's identified funding gap, which is of 80 million over the next 3 years. The business plan and financial strategy will now be open to scrutiny and consultation over the coming weeks. Directors will be tasked with turning these proposals into operating plans in the near future. I move the recommendations.
Okay, thank you, Michael. The report's before us. We've had an interesting 4 years up to this point, which has been quite challenging. But we've risen to the occasion. I told everybody over those 4 years that we'd make the savings with little impact on frontline services and public services, and I think we absolutely achieved that. The public certainly believe that. And we're now in the second term of office of 4 years, and we have a, shall we say, a more interesting challenge ahead of us. It's not going to go away. Whoever wins the election in 2015, they're going to stick to the spending plans that are in place. So we know that. So rather than sit back and talk about doom and gloom, we decided to get off our bottoms and do something about it. And we believe that by looking at the way the Council works, by redesigning services and turning it into a more business-like operation, we can not only make financial savings, but we can deliver better outcomes. And if we can do that, despite having to find the £80 million, it will be a real success, and I believe we can. And this is the starting point going forward. This is a living document, which will, and a living process actually, that will continue over many years to come. But to be quite frank, nothing's changed in the way councils run themselves and deliver services since, well, at least the early 60s, when this place was built. And as this place, Shire Hall, is no longer fit for purpose, the way we do things as a council is no longer fit for purpose, and we need to start bringing ourselves into the 21st century and start delivering services with the customer at the centre and focusing on outcomes rather than bureaucracy. And that's what we're going to do, and this is the financial plan that lays out in some detail how we're going to get there. And you moved it, I'll second it from the chair. Ooh, that was a tie. I'll go for Alan first.
Sorry.
You first. You and Charlotte had hands up almost simultaneously, but I think you nicked it.
As is my want in life. I must apologise. I'm not dumb, but I'm rather deaf today. So
That's a blessing.
You'll know, Keith. I'll apologise in advance. This report is pretty dire, although I'm sure, as with other people, we haven't been party to it prior to this morning. Actually, I couldn't read it on the iPad last night, and I only picked it up this morning. So, not able to talk about it in great detail. But then again, there isn't a great deal of detail in it. There's some interesting words about us reimagining and things like that. But in terms of the hard thrust of what's going to happen to the services, then there's presumably there's other things coming that will be published in due course. What I would say, though, I think the idea of it being a business plan is a misnomer because of the lack of detail. It seems to me, though, that it is a close of business plan, and it's a close of business for this council as we know it, and as many people have worked significantly over the years to develop. Not that I'm against change in operations, but this clearly does see the end of Shropshire Council as we know it. There are massive cuts being proposed as a consequence of the actions of the government, of the Tory and Lib Dem alliance. Half the staff are going, and no doubt more will follow over the next few years. There's proposals within this business plan to sell off services, to close services, and to commission services in various ways. It seems to me to be the end game of the government's policy to eradicate local government and many public services and turn them over predominantly to private profit-making initiatives. As I say, Keith, I'm not saying anything that will surprise you, but it really is part of the start of a mass sell-off. A sell-off that started with things like Veolia and Ringway and Serco, or transfer of management. And it's a very sad day for this council. It's a very sad day for us members, because we presumably in 3 years will just meet on 1 or 2 occasions a year and sign off a contract with whoever we are commissioning or selling to, or offering a management agreement on our behalf. And the idea of local democracy and direct control over the important services that we provide seems to me to have gone forever. And I do want to dwell on this idea of consultation. There's a little bit on page 3 of the original report on public consultation 2013, but I don't see any actual reference to what is proposed in the course of the next few months. There is growing concern. I hear what you say about people not turning up, but we've got a court case in Manchester tomorrow linked on problems that we've had with consulting with people. I hear what the questioner said before and agree with some of that. You can't force people to be engaged, but I think we'll find that when people hear what is happening and become aware of what is happening to this council and their services, these are their services, then increasingly people will be concerned, and they require and will be demanding consultation of the closest possible kind. We can't talk about individual proposals, as I say, because they're not there. But I'll just come back to that original point that I made, that this isn't a development, it isn't a business plan, it is a close of business plan for Shropshire Council as we know it.
Thank you, Alan. if I recollect correctly, 4 years ago, you were talking about draconian cuts, about the end of the world as we know it, about services ending and the public taking to the streets. Well, let me tell you, Alan, you were wrong then, and you're equally wrong now. Not completely wrong, because if you're saying it's the close of the council as we know it, thank goodness it's the close of the council as we know it, because the way we do things in the past hasn't exactly been as good as it might be. Every member has been offered the chance to go and look at some of the redesign work we're doing and how we're looking at the processes and procedures in which we do deliver services. And what that is throwing up incredibly clearly is we're not very good at it. We've got some great staff with some bureaucratic systems and processes. And what it's showing very clearly, by doing things differently, we can save money. And it's not about cuts, it's about saving money and deliver better outcomes for the customer. And that's what this plan's about, and that's what we will be working to. I also remember, Alan, when we were talking about recruiting senior officers, the salary was mentioned, and you said we never get anybody any good. Well, Clive, I think he was wrong there, yet again. The last senior management review has delivered the thick end of £1.5 million a year in savings. Has the world ended? No. Have we got a better class of officer who is here for Shropshire and believes in what we're doing? Absolutely yes. So change, Alan, I know you don't like, but all change isn't bad. And whilst this is a challenge, in my opinion, and hopefully, well not hopefully, but in the opinion of the people at Shropshire, because we laid out very clearly in our election manifesto what we were going to do. We said the 3 points that we were going to concentrate on. 1 was redesigning services, 2 was cooperating across the public sector, and 3 was moving things into IP&E, our limited company. We also made it very clear that we're not in the business of privatisation. You continually go on about that. That's not what we're doing and that's not what we're about. But moving services into IP&E that we believe are saleable and we can trade across the public sector is something that everybody I know thinks is very sensible. And as I said, the electorate, when they returned, 48 out of 74 Conservatives obviously believed in us. And we're taking that agenda forward. We were open and honest about what we're going to do, and now we're going to get on and do it. And no, the world won't end, but yes, the council will change. And yes, we will close down the inefficient ways and bureaucratic ways of the past and start focusing on the customer. Tim. Oh, sorry. Sure. Charlotte first, then Tim.
Thank you. As you know, I'm not quite so into my public speaking as some others. I did have a look through the plan very late last night when I got home from a late meeting. I would have loved to have had more time to be able to see more of it and to look at it in more detail. It does seem like quite an interesting plan. I didn't know how you were going to go through it, and as this is my first time sitting on cabinet, I didn't quite know how it's going to work. If I can just flip through a few things and just talk about things that I picked up, is that all right?
Well, can I say, be relaxed?
No, no.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, the only person that bites here is Alan, and he's on the
I know
behaviour
you're a bit
today.
scary just then, so I don't want to get on the wrong side of you so soon.
Find the right side.
She's very nice, really.
I'm still reeling at being a bit scary.
You can't see that.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the first point that I wanted to pick up was the listening to our customers on page 5. I've been quite interested in the whole Church Stretton project. I think that's been quite an interesting piece of work. I know there has been debated how much it's cost and how much has actually been achieved from it through different bodies of people. But I'm quite interested in how it's going to work to look at things in a holistic way. I mean, obviously, Church Stretton is renowned for its handrails now, but there is a lot more work that could be done, and taking that whole view look at it. I recently went to visit Eastleigh Council, which had quite an interesting way, and it had some hints of what the Church Stretton project was doing. And I was just I was just wondering if maybe that's something that could be considered. What they basically do is they have area committees, which are quite similar to our LJCs, but they have a lot more responsibility. They have basically the local councillors for each area. I think they have about 7 areas. They have to decide everything from planning to licensing to grants that are available and things like that. And they're only allowed to say no if they have a very good reason for saying no. I just thought that was an interesting way of looking at it and the Churchstone project.
Could I just comment on that, because that's somewhere we are very keen to go. Local commissioning boards and local decision making is something that we are absolutely 100% committed to, and it'd be interesting to have a chat with you about that in some more detail, perhaps.
Lovely. I knew this would be fine. So, so moving on, find my scrappy pieces of notes. Oh yeah, the jigsaw diagram. It was just a.
Can you tell what page did you say?
Page 18. On the piece of the jigsaw that says trade for public profits, I was just wondering whether the work had been done now to find out actually what the services that we may provide to other councils now cost, because I think that was one of the difficulties that has been looked at in the past, and why there was a delay in IP&E for not knowing what to potentially charge other councils and other bodies, because we weren't very aware of how much it was costing our own council. I think Shire Services was an example of that. The zero-based budgets as well, and business planning. Something, I'm quite into zero-based budgets. I think they're quite a good idea. But
you're in the wrong party, you know.
Something.
I always told them that.
Something that concerns me. See, it's not all happiness. Something that concerns me is the highways. I'll use highways as an example. What measures have we got in place to make sure that we're not just sticking a plaster on, sort of like a major crack at times like that, when a huge piece of work may need to be done, and we're not necessarily doing it because we're trying to keep our zero-based budget as close to zero as possible. And I was just wondering what processes and procedures were in place to make sure that work will still be done if necessary. I think you mentioned, I did chase up with another councillor earlier on about the Shire Hall. I just wanted to confirm that was the understanding of Shire Hall, that the idea is there's all sorts of rumours going about, so I just thought I'd check what's happening to Shire Hall. Rather than even give you my version of what's happening to Shire Hall, I'll just ask. And also assets as well. In some cases, there are assets that are available that may cost the council money to keep them, but they're community assets, but there's not necessarily the community money to be able to buy them for the full open market cost. And I was just wondering if there was any opportunities or any thoughts that had gone into giving potential community assets to the third sector, instead of actually sort of selling it off, even though we might get more money for putting a load of houses on the particular community asset, or something like that. I think a couple of examples. One that's recently happened is a scout hut in Abbey Ward that has been transferred as a community asset, and I was wondering if there's going to be more situations like that. And also my favourite subject of the Bishop's Castle Business Park as well, if that could be transferred as a community asset to a local enterprise company, that would be really fantastic as well. And also with the 3-year cuts that are in place for the 80 million, when do you think that people who are still working for the council, directly for the council, will be able to feel that they have job certainty, so to increase the morale of the council as well? It went into a load of figures then, so I haven't got so much to talk about. And also, I was just
Would you like me to answer some of the ones you've raised?
Yeah, all right,
Because
then.
I'll lose track, to be true.
Oh, okay, then. Yeah.
But really good stuff, and it's nice to see you've had the opportunity to go through it. The Church Stretton work, the Church Stretton project, is something that we really have to continue and understand how it works. Prevention being better than cure. I stumbled across on Monday actually a classical example of in Oswestry. Somebody actually I went to school with who's fallen on hard times. He was an electrician. He's got problems with his back. He's walking with sticks. He's had a domestic situation. He's homeless, and he doesn't qualify for support from social care because he can still dress himself and other things. But I can guarantee you, if no one does anything, he will start to take more and more and more out of our services. And I just happen to get involved personally, and we're hopefully sorting out. We have Smales Cottages, which are a charity in Oswestry. One's vacant, so hopefully that's going to resolve itself. But we will also need to counsel, I think, and spending a relatively little amount of money up front will mean that this guy will have a much better quality of life, and it will save us huge amounts of money going forward. If no one does anything and we just wait until he comes into our net officially, it's bad for him and it's bad for us. And that's something, early intervention, even though it doesn't qualify for something, we've got to continually look at. Zero-based budgets I think can only be a good thing. We've all seen year on year come the end of the financial year when you see all the roadworks going out and people desperately trying to spend every penny they've got in their budgets. But focusing on outcomes and then working backwards from zero to see what you need to deliver those outcomes. Business has been doing this for years, and what's happened in the council over years and years, if council tax went up by 4%, the budgets went up by 4%, whether they needed it or not. So you get a disparity in budgets. So I think this has been a long time coming, and I agree with you. I think it's a good thing. The Shire Hall and asset transfer, I think I can link those two in, because one of the reasons we want to get out of here is the cost of running it, which is a revenue cost, and we're less concerned, to be truthful, about capital income than we are about ongoing costs, because it's the day-to-day revenue costs that hurt us, and this place costs 2.6 million a year. If we sell it, we save 2.6 million a year on revenue. Now, if there's some community assets the community would like to have, they've only got to ask, because transferring it across, even if it's a reduced price, if it takes away the burden of running costs off us, we'd be delighted to have those conversations. And certainly come and have a chat with us about the business park in Bishop's Castle, and maybe we can develop that idea. I don't have a problem with any of that. And I think that was most of those points. Do you want to carry on?
Yep. Okay, thank you. I don't think I mentioned how I know that there's a lot of work in the long piece of paper work at the moment with the systems working, and I was just wondering how that was all tying in. I'm surprised that the systems working that's going on, which seems like a really interesting look at the way that we're doing things, isn't. It might be in there, but I didn't see it tied into the business plan as a core change and like the evidence as to how we found out that this particular situation isn't working and why we're going to change it and what's going to happen. I thought that would have been in the business plan because it's been such a huge piece of work.
We're going to let Lee answer.
I'd like to come back on that if I can. As I represent the community of the handrail in Church Stretton, I've been involved, as you know, with a lot of the work around locality commissioning. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, when you're talking about the systems working, what you're talking about is the end-to-end process. So when we look at we look at it from two perspectives, and there's two processes that we use. One is customer journey mapping, where we look at it from a customer's perspective, and we look at all of the agencies that customer will be involved in, and at what point the customer first comes into our service or into a part of what the council does. And so we do customer journey mapping, and also we do end-to-end service, where we look at the service that the council delivers or the service that we deliver in conjunction with our partners, and we look at that work. The reason why you won't see specific references to things like customer journey mapping and end-to-end service is because the way that we are working in terms of commissioning and the way that we're looking at our internal council processes is something that there might well be, who knows, an opportunity perhaps for us to sell that expertise perhaps to other local authorities. And so the reason that you won't see a lot of detail around how we do these things is because there's a commercial opportunity, there's a commercial sensitivity to the way that we do those. And so watch this space, I think, would be what I'd say. But you know, it is that those systems working are absolutely at the root of the way that we're looking at everything the council does, and it's looking at it from a customer's perspective. You know, let's be perfectly straight here. You know, the way that we are redesigning what we do is a focus on improving outcomes for customers and improving the way that we deliver service. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd just add to that, there would be too much of it. There's huge amounts of it going on, and that's another point. But the way we're doing things is different. It's innovative and different, and therefore we don't really want to share that with the world yet, because we do think it has commercial value. And in the past, if you think about it, councils have given away so much, and so much in commercial value that does have a value. Why shouldn't we preserve that for Shropshire? Please. Yeah.
Okay, I can understand why you want to keep it a secret. If it's going to be that fantastic, but I think as we're all members of the council, I think it would be nice, you know, sort of like that we, as councillors, we had the opportunity to be able to see all of the information, even if it isn't available to the rest of the world.
Yeah, but I think that is open to all councillors. The reason it's not in this report is because it's a public document.
Just because it's public.
As a councillor, you know everything, and I hope you've been and looked at some of the redesign of the business system thinking we're talking about. And if you want to come and have a chat with me at any time in Clive, door's always open.
No, as I say, I did find the systems working quite interesting, but you've explained the reason why it isn't in the public document.
Yeah, but we're not hiding it from you.
Okay then. And I think that was it. Thank you.
Thank you. I quite enjoyed that. Can you come instead of Roger next time? Tim?
I'll second that.
Yeah. Shall we vote?
Thank you, Keith. I always enjoy listening to Alan. Of course, he went to the same university as I did. He's almost the same age, so we have a lot in common apart from politics. I'm reading the Shropshire Stars article online at the moment, but I'm really looking forward to the quotes that Alan's been feeding them, reappearing tomorrow. All I would say to you, Alan, is before really considering a further attack on cuts and whatever else you might wish to misrepresent what we're trying to do, go up the road down the M54 and talk to your colleagues at Telford, because there's nothing we're doing that they're not doing, but we're doing it significantly better and we've been doing it for longer. So this is really what every council should be doing. And sadly, some are way behind the curve.
Yeah, it's quite an interesting point. It'd be really interesting to see what the press, sorry, I'm not talking about you in an unfortunate way, Mr. Pressman, sir, but whether you pick on the sort of empty sound bites or the substance we heard from Charlotte, would be interesting to see. Okay, we have no one else showing. Are we all happy with that? Yes. Thank you very much indeed. Item 10, Treasury Management. Michael.
In line with the next report on the agenda, this update report focuses on performance over the last quarter of the financial year. It highlights the economic environment in which Treasury management decisions have been made, and in the interest rate forecasts of the Council's Treasury Advisor, Capital Asset Services. It also updates members on the internal Treasury team's performance. And during the second quarter, the team have achieved a return of 0.55% on the Council's cash balances, outperforming the benchmark by 0.29%. This amounts to additional income of £106,000 during the quarter, which is included within the Council's projected outturn position in the monthly revenue monitor. And so, Leader, I move the recommendation 2.1.
Thank you. All in favour? Thank you. It's Treasury Strategy next, Mike. Mid-year review.
The mid-year Treasury strategy report has been prepared in compliance with SIPC's Code of Practice on Treasury Management of 2011 and provides an economic update and review on the Council's borrowing and investment. As I've mentioned, the internal Treasury team achieved an overall return of 0.55% on the Council's cash balances, outperforming the benchmark by 0.29%. This amounts to additional income of £217,000 for the first 6 months of the year, which is included within the Council's monitoring projections. In the first 6 months, all Treasury management activities have been in accordance with the approved limits and prudential indicators set out in the Council's Treasury strategy. Again, Leader, I move the recommendation.
Okay, you all happy with that? Thank you. The next item 12. Well, I got a first copy of the agenda. They missed a word off. So I read, delegation of functions to Birmingham City Council for the purposes of illegal money lending. And I thought this is a new way of generating income. But I'm glad that the enforcement's been put back in, and that's you, Stephen.
Yeah, if only it was, David, if only it was. The report before you seeks approval to authorise Birmingham City Council to investigate illegal money activities within the Shropshire area. It's due to Shropshire not having the expertise to carry out this sort of investigative work. Birmingham City Council is the lead authority for the whole of England, so it is accepted practice nationally. So I move.
Thank you. All happy? Yep. Thank you very much indeed. Would somebody like to move item 13, please? Mike, second by Steve. All in favour? Right, dear public and press, sorry. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to ask you to leave.